2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That'll do nicely. Can you pass me my other needle and we'll show the good people how to do the knit stitch. Alright, and knit there's your 10 stitches. They were on the right hand needle when you cast them on. To work them, you need to change that into your left hand, because the knitting, you're always working stitches from the left hand needle to the right hand needle. Okay, so now you turn the needle around. Don't worry about the tail end, ignore it. You're not working with that one, you're working with the ball end. You've got 10 stitches on here. Now we're going to start with knit stitch. Knit stitch is the stitch in knitting. Everything else is an imitation of it or a variation of it. It's always done with the yarn coming from the back of the work. And in Western knitting, as opposed to Eastern knitting, the needle goes from the left to the right. The natural position of a stitch on a needle, as it lies, you can think of it like this. If the stitch is a man running towards the end of the needle, his right leg would always be forward. You see that? The stitch lies with the leg nearest to you forward. That's what we're going to work into, and we're going to put the needle in from the left to the right, and we're going to use that right hand needle to hook the yarn through the first stitch. So the yarn goes from the right to the left, sits in that crook between the two needles, and then you use the right hand needle to pull it through, and then you take the old stitch off and you have a new one. It's loops through loops. Okay, I'm going to show you the first row knitting with the wool feeding from the right hand, which is the natural way for most British knitters to knit. You're feeding with the right hand like this. In fact, lots of old aunts that you have seen knitting, or grannies, will have what I call posh lady knitting, which is a lovely kind of like this business, like this. It goes like that. Lovely. Like this. And that's how I grew up seeing people knit. And it's fine. So the yarn is still coming from the back, the work, there we are, it's still feeding from the back. You're making knit stitches, so you're making smooth V shapes at the front, and you're making bump purls at the back. That's always what you get when you make a knit stitch. Okay. Smooth side towards you, the bump at the back. Okay. I'm going to turn around again, so the finished row is on the left hand side now, and we're going to knit that off onto the right one again. Okay. Let's switch now to the more continental way of knitting, which a lot of German people have learned. The position of the left hand can be either higher or lower, depending on the knitter. But the wool is still at the back, the needle is still going in from left to right, but the wool is feeding from the left hand. And as you can see, this is less movement, less work ergonomically. And I think it's a bit quicker. But if you're beginning to learn, it's a good idea at this point to try and learn both ways, because it'll make you more versatile. You can do more things. Okay, that's knit stitch. So you can see that what we're making here is a selection of ridges and valleys. Each time you do a knit row, you have the smooth V's towards you and the purl behind. Of course, then when you turn it round, you have the purl bump towards you. So you get a lovely corrugated fabric, which is called garter stitch, which is in straight flat knitting is every row knit. Just keep knitting backwards and forwards, you'll end up with garter stitch. Garter stitch have a wonderful fact or relationship about it, that in terms of size, 2 rows is the same length or measurement as 1 stitch wide, so that you can work beautiful mitre corners and 90-degree right angles very easily with garter stitch because it has this relationship. Now, that's knit. So this is what garter stitch looks like if you knit every row. You've got a wonderful corrugated smooth bump effect here. And it's warm and it's stretchy and it's comfortable and it's kind of quietly classic and nice, and I like it.